Welcome to another episode of Pilots Say What, where we get to hear what pilots have to say. And my name is Zach. We do this podcast from week to week here at Thrust Flight. We talk about all things aviation, but typically we focus a lot on general aviation, student pilots, people wanting to start their flight training, and we occasionally have someone from the airlines or maybe a working pilot on the show. And today we have a special guest, Joe Johnson. We haven't had you on the pod yet, and I haven't really gotten to exchange much conversation with you, so I'm excited to get to know you. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, so Joseph Johnson is my official name, but everybody knows me as Joe.
Okay.
And currently a 777 captain at American Airlines in the training department as a check airman.
Okay.
I just moved over from the Airbus previously as a check airman on that airplane.
Okay, awesome. That's really exciting. That means you might have a lot of insight for people who might come your way, or at least looking to learn how to fly a lot larger plane than our Piper Archers.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you did? Maybe did you do anything before you got into aviation? Have you always been in aviation?
No, it was pretty much what I always wanted to do from a kid. So being a product of the 60s and early 70s, the Apollo space missions, my original goal was to be an astronaut.
Okay.
When the oil crisis hit in the 70s and NASA kind of shut down, it was like, okay, we'll go to the Air Force, be a fighter pilot. And then when I got into high school and college, I decided that wasn't really the route I was going to go. Right. And wound up going into just basically majoring in aviation and getting my ratings. Okay. Never did actually complete my degree. So I thought that school was going too slow.
Yeah.
So I enrolled in a major flight school similar to Thrust Flight back then.
Okay.
And I finished up all my ratings and never went back to college.
Yeah. Once you get rolling like that.
Yeah. I mean, it did cause me a little bit of trouble as far as trying to get hired because back then they wanted to have a 4-year degree.
Okay.
But if you had the time and the experience behind you, then you could oftentimes bypass some of that. So,
right.
I had to pay quite a bit of dues to get past the 4-year degree piece.
Yeah.
But I made it.
So now you don't have to have a degree. No one's really looking for it, right? But
no, they're looking at it more as a skill,
okay,
right, and a trade as more so than an education,
right?
Coming out of I guess the 3 major wars that the U.S. has been involved in with World War II and then Korea and then Vietnam, right. There was an abundance of pilots, that came out of the military. So if you were a civilian trying to get on, they wanted to see that you had an education,
okay,
and some discipline and that type of stuff. So,
right.
But as we have run out of pilots, from the military and otherwise, now it's like, okay, well, we need pilots,
right?
And we need them bad.
Yeah.
Right. So is the 4-year degree that important? Do we need a piece of paper to fly an airplane? No, if you have the hours and the skills and you've proven yourself, then oftentimes that's adequate.
Right. And do we feel like there's still do we feel like that discipline is still there? How do we feel confident in that's still the case if we're not requiring a degree? Is it because now there's more FAA involvement and things like that, or do we just?
So a lot of the kids that are coming up now. So in the past, there was really not a whole lot of schools that were formalized, for the airlines.
Right.
So with the academies and things that you have now, the partner schools with the airlines and such, you're starting to see that discipline built into the school.
Okay.
And so the airlines now look at the civilian pilots like, okay, did you go to a school and did you complete all your required training? They look for the CFI that demonstrates an ability like above and beyond, the commercial. Whereas in times past, a lot of the civilian pilots got to the commercial and then they got hired flying checks or banners or what have you. And there was really no discipline.
Okay.
It was just time building.
Right.
Now the kids are pushed into a situation where to get their time, they have to teach in most cases. And that's going to require them to develop a working knowledge of the regulations, how the ATC works,
right.
and so forth. So that's where the discipline starts to come in.
Okay, great. And I'm gonna want to come back around to you as a check airman because I think there's a lot of cool things we want to know about. But I really want to get a little bit larger picture of who you might be. Can you tell me some of the things that you do outside of aviation? I know that you have your scholarship that you kind of are you the founder? You run that, right?
Yeah. So we started the scholarship after I lost my son in October of 21.
Okay.
He was aspiring to be a pilot, and what we found out when he got out of the military was that his GI Bill does not pay for the private pilot. So if a young veteran got out of the military, or even still in the military, and was trying to use their GI Bill to pay for flight training, it's very tough to get the GI Bill to pay for the private. because the excuse me, the VA sees that as recreational.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they get enrolled into a college-bound type program with 141 flight school and so on.
Okay.
And there's quite a bit of red tape and paperwork involved. So what we're trying to do is bridge the gap for the people that don't want to go that route, and make it a little bit easier. And quite frankly, there's several more. There's a lot more of those people than there are the ones that are trying to do the college and that type of stuff.
Right. Exactly.
So that's where the CloudDancer scholarship comes into play. Right. We named it after him, Ashton Johnson Memorial CloudDancer Scholarship.
That's awesome.
We do 5 scholarships a year is how we got started, $10,000 a piece.
Okay.
And it's been phenomenally successful in the last 4 years. This is our 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
And so this year, as part of our 5th anniversary, we have not really doubled, but almost doubled from $10,000 to $17,500 on the scholarship.
Okay.
And we also added maintenance technicians. We were getting a lot of feedback that maintenance technicians needed help as well.
Right.
And although their GI Bill is available to them, whereas it wouldn't be necessarily to a veteran trying to do the flying piece of it, we feel that it's worthwhile to recognize their contribution as well. So we now have 5 scholarships for maintenance technicians. That's at awesome. $5,000 a piece. It's not quite as much money, but it's helps. Every little bit helps.
Absolutely, every little bit does help. I mean, both are very expensive. I mean, flying is very expensive, but I wouldn't call either of them cheap.
Right.
So, and for people who are listening, of course, Thrust has a maintenance program as well as a flying program. So if you guys are curious about that sort of thing, that's something we do. But that's part of how you're launching this, right?
Yeah. So Patrick is on our board of directors, the owner of Thrust Flight, and he and I sat down and had a conversation about this, and we came up with a plan that if we had one of our nation's veterans that wanted to go to AMT school, aircraft maintenance technician, and received one of our scholarships, and they happened to be local to one of the locations where you guys offer, I should say, AMT training, then he would match that in a grant form to that applicant. So now the person would be potentially getting $10,000 versus just $5,000 to go towards their education.
Okay, that's awesome. I think that's such a big deal. I want to know, I want to say it correctly. So it's the Ashton Johnson Memorial CloudDancer Scholarship, right?
That's correct.
So if anyone's looking for what you're talking about, that's how you're going to find it. You can simply Google it.
It's quite a long name, for a foundation, but we didn't want to drop out the whole reason it was founded.
Exactly.
And our website is just CloudDancer Scholarship, and it oftentimes gets shortened to that.
Right.
Or they'll say AJM CloudDancer.
Right, and I like I do like to spell it all out just because I do want to make sure that we include why it was created in the first place. Right. That's awesome. For the flight side, do students that go to Part 141 schools still apply or receive scholarships from CloudDancer?
Yeah. So we've given 20 scholarships so far.
Okay.
Our success stories vary from they reach the flight instructor level and start working at flight schools to they land corporate jobs. We've had a few veterans that re-enlisted and went back into the military to fly in the military. So they didn't go in originally to fly. Came out, got their private, which demonstrated to the military they were capable of learning to fly, re-enlisted, and were able to land jobs flying in the military. So we've got, I know one F-16 driver, and we have another one right now that's to be assigned, but he's in flight school right now with the Air Force. We have one of our first-year recipients is a 737 first officer at American Airlines.
Okay.
And then we got a couple guys that are flying corporate as well. Yeah, so not every 141 school has the ability to get the GI Bill to pay.
Right.
There's quite a few hoops that they have to jump through, if you will, and so not all the schools had that option available to them. So even though they may be 141, there may not be associated with a college program, and the VA's got some very strict requirements.
Right.
So it's a really limited opportunity to get the GI Bill to pay. So we're and that's just recently that they've done that. Because in times past they wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, I remember. So we have everyone who calls in. A lot of people ask, "Hey, do you accept the GI Bill?" And it is really difficult to be on their side with that. We just got someone on our team. It's in the works. Nothing's official yet, but we have someone on our team dedicated to trying to take a look at all the red tape and make sure that everything is in line on our end as an institution to be able to communicate to the VA and say, "Hey, here's everything you need." Yeah. Can we allow these students to fly with their GI Bill? Yeah. So we're really excited that hopefully that goes somewhere, and give more people an opportunity.
Well, I think this will help give it some credibility as well, since
Mhm.
we're partnering with the school and offering scholarships and sending people here.
Mhm.
You know, we've had a couple of students who, or I shouldn't say students, but applicants who were students of Thrust Flight.
Mhm.
James Halpasco was one, in fact,
Right.
and he's now flying corporate.
Yes, he
You know,
is.
so
Actually, we did a video with him about the CloudDancer
about the
scholarship a
CloudDancer
while
scholarship,
back. It's
yeah.
been like 2 years now, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, they're all over the place. I'd love to see I love to see the photos we have sometimes on social media with our pilots who run into each other in the airlines, and they say, "Hey, Thrust Flight buddy," and they take a picture and they
Yeah,
send
the
it to us
Thrust
sometimes.
alumni, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to talk to James soon. He was really helpful with me when I was making videos with him. So, uh, I also want to know a little bit about how you talked about your history, but what made you want to fly? Was there something when you were younger that you just thought was so cool, or like what can you like dig into what that was?
Yeah. So again, growing up, you know, product of the '60s and '70s,
Uh-huh.
when all the rage was the astronauts, you
Okay.
know, and the flying.
Yeah.
I grew up on a farm. My uncle was a crop duster.
Okay.
I grew up in an area that was very heavy in agriculture aviation, so I was around airplanes a lot. My first airplane ride was 5. I was 5,
Oh,
and it
that's
was in a crop duster.
and a crop duster. Okay.
Yes.
You remember what kind of plane
It
was
was a
it?
Pawnee, Piper Pawnee,
Okay.
which is basically a Super Cub with the wings on the bottom,
Okay.
235 horse engine. It was a death trap,
That's
right?
crazy. Just flying all around. I mean, at least there was a
Correct.
field below you, but I don't know if that's good
Right.
or bad.
Right.
So, but you were just exposed to it, and so you're like, this is something I'm interested in, and you never really considered much else. Was there an alternate path that was almost there that you almost took at any point?
Well, again, when I got to college, you know, I did look at the military aspect of it,
Right.
and I went over to a school that had a ROTC program, ROTC for the Air Force.
Okay.
The problem I was running into is we were not independently wealthy, so I was relying on scholarships as well,
Right.
you know, to help pay for my college.
Okay.
And the college I was attending had given me a full ride scholarship.
Okay.
So basically school was paid for. The
Wow.
only expense I had was the flying. And as you know, it's expensive.
Yeah, it is.
In
Still
fact,
expensive.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was a whole $25 an hour for a 152 back then.
But I know that was expensive.
It was
so-
expensive at that time. That's right. And the instructor was 12. You know? And avgas was around $3 a gallon, which was unheard of.
That's wild.
So, but at any rate, I did seek that path and tried to go. You know, went and talked to the military,
Okay.
and I guess it just wasn't for me. So
Yeah.
But I went through the whole process. You know, going through the medical and the whole 9 yards.
Okay. Gotcha. And so you had can you tell me a little bit more about your military career then?
I didn't have a
Oh,
military.
you didn't go to the military?
No.
I was gonna make
I
sure.
said I
So-
explored that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had gone to the military but just ended up not flying. I want to make sure I understood
No,
that
no.
correctly. All right. Well, that being said, you know about people who come out of the military and they want to become a pilot. There's people who have flown, and a lot of people think you have to fly in the military in order to be a pilot in civilian life still.
No,
people
that's
still
not
think
true.
that often, yeah. And that's what we're talking about here is that you
Yeah,
don't.
so for generations, that's the
Yeah.
way it was.
Mhm.
You know, it was really tough to get on with an airline as a civilian.
Yeah.
You had to go through the military, learn to fly in the military, and
Right.
so the airlines were predominantly military. For example, Delta was predominantly Navy.
Right.
They leaned very heavy on the Navy for their aviators. American was very strong with the Air Force.
Okay.
You know, I can't speak to United, Continental, or the others. At
Right.
that time,
Yeah.
most of the kids today don't even know who Continental is, but that was a former airline that's now part of United. You know,
Yeah.
or
absolutely.
Northwest, which was formerly Republic. Right?
Yeah.
which was formerly Ozark. Right?
That's wild. That it
So-
changes. I don't know the history of the airlines that well either. It makes me want to ask you: have you seen a change in the way that we train? I mean, I talked a little bit about it earlier with you. Is it just that there's so many more paths for civilians to become pilots? Is that what's changed a lot over the last I don't know 30, 40 years?
Well, what we're seeing today,
Mhm.
because I'm an examiner outside of flying for the airlines as well, and
Mhm.
so what I've noticed, and I've been doing examining work now for the FAA for almost 2 decades.
Okay.
And before that, within the regional airlines, I was a check airman and management type, if you will,
Okay.
14 years. So training's been my background,
Okay.
all in, you know, even at the airlines.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing is today's generation is obviously more technically advanced than my generation was. But what we've noticed, or what I've noticed, is the mechanical aptitudes.
Mm.
Okay, so pilots that are my age or within a generation of my age grew up mowing lawns, riding bikes, delivering papers,
Right.
fixing things.
Right.
Right. So there was always a little bit of a mechanical aptitude that was built in. Shop was something that was offered in every high school.
Yeah. I mean, I think I moved to Dallas when I was like 16, and my favorite class was shop before I got here. And then they had integrated it with the electronics program, and it wasn't anything serious.
It wasn't. Yeah.
It was terrible. But
so so we're seeing that now. So the kids today with today's modern airplane, they do well. Right.
Yeah.
But if you put them in an older airplane, as they like to call them steam gauges, right?
Yeah, they still call
them steam gauges, and I'm like, where's the water go? Where's the boiler?
Yeah, it's not even that.
So, but anyway, yeah, we're seeing that, and so there has been a change, a shift in the paradigm as to how the pilots train and the opportunities available for them.
Okay.
Certainly.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I can imagine. And so your background is in training, and you said you're a DP as well.
That's correct.
As a check airman. Can you tell me a little bit about becoming a DPE? Because I don't think everyone chooses to go that route, right? When did you become a DPE first?
So in 2008,
okay,
is when I was first asked by the FAA.
Okay.
To apply to become a designee, and it took about 18 months putting in the application, continuing to update it as well as things progressed along. And then finally they called and said, hey, we have an opening, because at that time there was an abundance of DPs, not a shortage like there is now. So until someone dropped off, there was no room to add a new one.
Okay.
The FAA had very strict guidelines on how many designees they could have within a geographical location.
Okay.
Each FSDO had its own boundaries, and each inspector could only have so many designees.
Okay.
So the designee limit was kind of tied very closely to the FSDO's number of ASIs available to manage them.
Okay.
So once there was an opening available, they called me. I immediately went to school. That was in 2010. So 16 years now awesome. As a designee. The training, as I said, I went to flight school, similar to thrust flight. I was up in Tennessee. Did all my ratings there. I taught there for almost 2 years. I landed a job as a King Air co-pilot, pilot, if you will. And I did that for about a year. And then at that point, I got hired with American Eagle.
Okay.
So I'm an OG American Eagle.
Right. All the way.
All the way back when Robert Crandall, some people know as the king of American Airlines, he was buying, I should say, all the regional airlines, the mom and pops.
Wow.
They were DBA, American Eagle.
Okay.
And there was about 6 or 7 that he purchased.
Yeah.
There was Nashville Eagle was Air Midwest.
Okay.
But they were based in Nashville.
Right.
So when he bought that aspect of it, just that piece of it, they renamed it Nashville Eagle. Air Virginia out of Raleigh.
Okay.
Command Airways out of New York.
Okay. And they never really switched their name over or anything.
They didn't
like that,
for a while. But over time they began to merge them together, the operations together. So the first merger was my company, Nashville Eagle, with Air Virginia, and we became Flagship Airlines.
Okay.
And shortly after we formed Flagship Airlines, Command merged into that.
Okay.
And then shortly after that happened, Eastern Airlines.
What a ride!
Right, Eastern Airlines folded. I remember when the guys were out picketing in front of the Nashville airport, and I was out there walking amongst them in my uniform, supporting them, of course. And I felt so privileged to be amongst that group of aviators, because here I am, some 20-something-year-old kid.
At that point in time, especially.
At that point in time, amongst all these 50-plus senior guys, that've been flying the Big Iron, and was supporting them. Yeah. Once Eastern folded, Crandall went in and backfilled Miami.
Okay.
And we bought a bunch of airplanes, and that's when they said, hey, you have a training background. Are you interested in becoming part of our training department?
Okay, sweet.
And so I moved over to the Saab 340, and I became initially a sim instructor check airman, and then an aircraft instructor check airman. Okay. And then eventually the equivalent of what today is called an APD.
Okay, an APD.
Yeah, which is an aircrew program designation.
Okay.
They didn't call it that back then. They called it Aircrew Designated Examiner, ACD.
Aircrew Designated Examiner.
Yeah.
And how does that differ from the check airman?
Yeah. So check airman is an FAA authorization,
right?
But you can't issue type ratings and such.
Okay.
You have to have a designation to issue a type rating. So when I guess you could say I first became a designee in the early '90s on the Saab 340, but it was only for the airline.
Right, only for the airlines.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so now, working as a check airman, can you tell me a little bit about what your day looks like, or at least I'm sure it varies, but can you tell me a little bit of what it looks like to be a check airman?
So I'll have to give you my experience as an Airbus check airman because I haven't
Okay.
completed my training yet fully on the
And
777.
congratulations, then,
Thank
by
you.
the way.
It's a really fun airplane.
Yeah.
The depending on whether you're assigned to the schoolhouse or if you're assigned to what we call flight standard or flying,
Okay.
will determine what you're doing each month. You work about 15 to 16 days per month. You can work up to 18 days.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the schoolhouse for the month, that means you're going to be working in the simulator.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that means you're working with new hires or recurrents. You'll be when a new hire comes on, they do their first 5 days with a sim instructor.
Okay, they
That's
do.
different from a check airman.
Okay.
Your sim instructors are generally retired airline guys
Mm-hmm.
or guys that may have medical doubt
Okay.
that still want to be involved, and they teach the primacy. They do the first 5 days.
Yes, gotcha. And what did you say their title was?
Sim instructor.
Sim instructor. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we shorten it. We call them Sim P.
Sim P.
Yeah, which is a sim pilot.
Okay.
And then their last 5 days is typically done by the check airman because we go in and now we kind of determine that they've met their primacy requirements, and we can conduct part of their check ride, which is deemed the maneuvers validation.
Right. Okay.
That's usually about day 8.
Okay.
And so they have to go in and demonstrate they can do their 600 RVR takeoffs or 500 RVR
in the plane.
in the simulator.
Yeah. Okay. I was
in the
like,
simulator.
Mm-hmm.
That they can do their Cat 3 landings
Okay.
and their auto landings. They can do their engine failures on takeoff, their single engine approaches, go arounds, and things like that.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a loft
Okay.
with them also. The loft stands for line oriented flight training.
Okay.
And that's basically the precursor to their LOE, which is line oriented evaluation.
Okay.
And that's done by the designee.
Okay.
So check airman can do everything except the designation ride.
Just the
Yeah.
yeah, except for the designation. Well, that's gonna bring me to some questions that I think people are gonna want to hear when they want to hear me ask you some of these things. So, first, I want to ask you a really like basic level question as a DPE in general aviation. What are some common mistakes you see people make when they're on a check ride?
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you that if you don't mind. 'Cause
Yeah,
our students are gonna want to know.
It's a fair question.
Yeah, yeah.
The biggest thing is people will tend to let their nerves get to them.
Okay.
So I try to utilize humor a lot in my check rides to
Okay.
kind of keep them at ease, put them at ease.
Not everyone does that.
No, not everyone
Yeah.
does it. Some people are very straight laced, ties pulled up really tight.
They're like, I can't make you at ease. You have to be at ease
Right,
yourself.
right,
Like, yeah.
right. No, I try to introduce a little bit of humor here and there where I can to kind of, because I can see, having done it this number of years, I can see when the applicant's nerves are starting to get the best of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of veer off the beaten path for a moment, just to kind of relax them a little bit.
Right.
And bring them back in, and then continue on. So the nerves is one thing.
Yeah.
We at the airlines we always say don't do anything dumb, dangerous, or different, and you should be fine. Right.
Right.
So that's oftentimes what we'll see.
Okay.
It's like they'll do something really dumb, and we're like, now what made you think to do that?
Right. It usually comes from maybe a little bit of not flying often enough or something, right? I would imagine.
Could be, or they had an expectation in their head. So let's say, for example, we're doing a multi-engine ride.
Right.
Okay. And they know the engine failure is coming sooner or later on the takeoff.
Yeah.
Right? And we have to wait till 400 feet before we can do it, unless it's a rejected takeoff. We
Okay.
do it on the ground. And so the applicants oftentimes will try to second guess you. They're like, he's going to pull the left engine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you pull the right engine and they stomp the wrong rudder.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
They're anticipating it.
Yes, they're anticipating what's coming.
Yeah.
So that's where the dumbness, it's like, and I try to explain to them, in the real world, you're not going to know it's coming.
Right.
Right. So there's a little bit of human factor where you're going to kind of panic for a second, for the lack of a better description. I'm not saying everyone panics, but
right. But you get kicked into gear in that
yeah,
moment.
there's that startle. We call it at the airlines. We call it the startle factor.
The startle factor. Okay.
Yeah. So you're startled, like, oh, what just happened? Right.
Yeah.
And by that time, the airplane is beginning to give you indications of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to drift off one side or the other.
Okay.
And at that point, you recognize that, and you can immediately correct accordingly.
Mm.
But if you're trying to anticipate, you may wind up stepping on the wrong letter, putting in the wrong inputs, things like that.
Right.
So that's why we tell them, don't do anything dumb.
Yeah.
Right? Don't try to anticipate. Just do what you do. Don't
Right.
do anything different than what you've been trained to do.
Right.
Right.
It's okay to be reactionary in a moment like that because that's exactly what that's training you to be able to do well.
Yeah.
So.
But now, the term you use, reaction, I tend to try to stray away from that term.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. We're mixing that for me.
So the reason that I say that is because anyone can react.
Okay.
Anyone can react. It takes thought to act.
A copy.
Okay.
Okay.
And so, if you have an engine failure or something goes wrong, in the moment, you don't want to react.
Okay, copy.
Okay.
I see what you're saying.
Think of it like when a doctor tests your reflexes, right? He hits you on the knee and you kick him, right?
Yeah.
So that would be a reaction.
Okay.
Okay. An involuntary reaction, of course, but nonetheless a reaction. So what I try to advise the applicants, I go, don't react. Take a moment and grasp the situation and then act accordingly.
Okay.
And that oftentimes will kind of bring them back down, where they need to be.
And maybe you were gonna give more points on mistakes, but I like what we're talking about right now because I could imagine the reason they feel eager to fix it quickly.
They do.
They think that it's a quick thing.
Yeah. So and if you've ever taken a check ride with me, you know my saying regarding that. So I always tell them, you don't impress me with how fast you file it up.
Okay, right? There you go. Well, that's perfect. Then I guess I'm understanding how people react.
So yeah, exactly. So and that's generally the reaction, And so I say it's, slow is accurate, accurate is fast.
Wow, okay. I think that's good.
So take your time and do it correct the first time, and you'll find out that it goes a lot faster.
Yeah, right? I like that a lot. That can be applied in so many ways, in my opinion,
in a variety of different things. Yeah,
yeah. I have to think about that when I speak sometimes. I'll get ahead of my words.
Yeah, engage your brain before your mouth. Right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's good. I had to ask that for at least our students. They would want to know. But my next question is, even as a check airman, since you would know, how long does it take before someone gets to actually fly the jet when they're a new hire?
So when you come online, if you're coming on at mainline, you've already flown jets.
Oh, right.
So you're flying them at the regionals.
Maybe, yeah.
Depending on what your background was before you went to the regional, oftentimes you've never flown a jet. You've only flown propeller-driven aircraft.
Right.
Maybe not even turbo propeller.
Yeah.
Right. You've been working at an academy school. You've gotten to your 1,500-hour mark, and you got your conditional offer of employment. You go get your ATP, CTP. That's the first time you fly a simulated jet, if you will.
Yes.
And then once your ATP, CTP is behind you, you start class with the airlines. Every airline is going to have an indoctrination, which is typically a week.
Right.
It could be anywhere from 5 to 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
This is all of the company policies, procedures, rules, regulations, things like that.
Right.
And then after that, you'll generally go into some form of systems and cockpit training.
Okay.
And so that's can vary from each airline to airline. Ours runs 10 days at American.
Okay.
And in that 10 days, we spend half a day going over systems.
Okay.
And we spend the other half of the day going over cockpit procedures.
Okay.
At the end of the 10 days, you'll take 100 question written.
Okay.
Which for the purposes of an AQP program, AQP stands for Advanced Qualification.
Okay.
Is the equivalent of the oral.
Okay.
So instead of the way it used to be back in the day, where you'd sit down with the check airman and he'd say, "Okay, let's look at the overhead panel. Tell me what this switch does. What does this light mean? What's this switch do?" And so now instead you take a written test.
Okay.
100 questions. You have to make an 80 or better, to pass.
That sounds a little tough. It could be.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be. But you have all the resources there to study, so there's no reason you shouldn't pass it.
Copy.
And at the end of that, then you'll go to a procedures validation.
Mm-hmm.
So all those procedures they've been teaching you for the last 10 days, we call them triggers and flows. Yeah. So the trigger might be the ground guy comes on and says, "Hey, parker brake set, all secure below.
Mm-hmm.
Bypass pin installed, fire check complete, stand by for parker brake release."
Okay.
That's a trigger.
Right.
Okay. Now there's a flow associated with that.
Right.
The captain's got to do his flow. First officer's got to do his flow.
Mm-hmm. And that's what that would I think to translate that to general aviation, where we use checklists right?
Yeah, because typically after the flow's complete, then we followed up with a checklist to verify that everything was completed.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and that's I remember talking to one of our CFIs. We've been focused on trying to use checklists as more of a verification tool
That's
than
correct.
anything. And I don't know where we're at in that training. I can't speak on behalf of them, but I can understand.
Yeah, and so the procedures validation is the assurance that you understand. It's really more you've got the muscle memory down, right?
Right.
You know what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So when you get this trigger, you do these things, right?
Okay.
And then you read this checklist. And so you go through the procedures validation. That's if you don't pass that, you don't go to the simulator.
You don't even go to the simulator.
They're not going to waste time in the sim teaching you triggers and flows.
Yeah.
You should already know them.
Okay.
So then you'll get in the simulator and you'll spend 10 days in the sim. And as I stated, the first 5 is typically with sim Ps. And then the last 5 will be with a check airman and eventually an APD who will give you your evaluation ride.
Right.
So in the maneuvers validation that the check airmen do, myself included, is really weird. It's exactly what it says. It's a maneuver validation.
Right.
Right. So within our manuals, we have all these different maneuvers. Right. So there's the we used to call them lower standard takeoffs. Now we call them 500 RVR takeoffs or 300 RVR take, whatever the case may be. We have the engine failure procedures, the single engine procedures, the go around procedures, right? Things like that. Things that we have to, for the lack of a better description, memory items.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
But we refer to them as maneuvers.
Okay.
So the check airman is now going to. You've had 7 days of practicing these maneuvers in the simulator. So now we're going to validate you can do this maneuver.
Yeah, you had the opportunity to soak
You've
it
had
in.
7 days of practicing. Now the check airman is going to validate it on day 8.
Okay.
So you can see at each step of the way, you got to learn the procedure before you go to the sim, and then we're going to validate it.
Okay.
And we're going to put you in the sim because now we're trying to teach you maneuvers. We don't need to be teaching procedures in the sim. We want to use that. It's very valuable time. We want to use that to teach the maneuvers. So we get 7 days of maneuvers, or the three more days. Well, it's 7 total, but 3 more days with the check airman, and then maneuvers is complete. And then you'll get 1 day. Some people used to refer to it as a warm up.
Okay.
And but it is the LOFT, line-oriented flight training. Well, remember, the test is the line-oriented evaluation. So the LOFT is a practice eval.
Okay.
For the lack of a better description,
Makes sense.
we're now going to put you in a real live, real-time situation, fly from Boston to Kennedy and Kennedy to Charlotte or something like that, and you're going to now demonstrate that you can do all your procedures and you can do all your maneuvers. And in the LOFT, we're going to sample just about everything we've seen.
Okay.
So oftentimes we hear from the applicant, or the students, I should say, they feel like they're drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I feel like that's one of aviation's favorite terms.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, and it's because we're having to sample so many things because the next day they're going to do the evaluation with the examiner. Now, he's not going to sample everything. He's only going to sample a few. Right. So if they can handle the LOFT, the LOE will be a piece of cake. Okay. Right? Because the LOFT is just constant throwing stuff at them.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah, it's kind of it sort of is to see if you can handle the fire hose. That way you don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Once the LOE is complete, then you get handed your type rating. You take your picture in front of the camera with the check airman. Everybody posts it on social media.
Of course. And get your LinkedIn profile
and
ready.
Now you reach out to your training managers, and they will assign you your IOE or OE, as some people call it. And this is your initial operating experience. So this is the first time you'll actually fly a jet.
Wow.
So if you're at the regional, this is the first time you're going to put your hand on the jet in the real aircraft with a check airman. So you'll be in the right seat. It'll be in a revenue flight. The passengers have no idea that you're brand new.
Probably good.
When I'm doing a new captain, however, I oftentimes will tell the passengers in the PA, hey, we have a brand new captain today. Welcome him aboard, his name or her name maybe. Stuff like that. And then I look at them after I'm done with my piano and go, no pressure.
That's awesome. That's more fun.
Yeah. So, and then you'll get 25 hours of operating experience on the line. And so what they're going to do now, this is more about acclimating you to the day-to-day operation. Right. So the pushback procedures, the taxiing at the airport, en route, getting changeovers, which a changeover is basically you're getting it's like getting the ATIS and your arrival gate and any special information you may need to know. Going into that airport and stuff like that. And you brief your approach and so on.
And that's when,
And then you go in and you land, and then you gotta, this because you're both working at all times. So
Yeah.
both radios are being used. You know, the captain's on number 1, he's getting the taxi instructions.
Okay.
The first officer's on number 2, getting the parking gate assignment and talking with the ramp control. At the same time monitoring what the tower and the ground control is telling the captain, you know.
Okay.
So it's very busy.
Yeah, it's a very busy thing. It's
Very
it's
busy.
a lot of logistics.
There's
a lot of communication. I mean, that's what we're trying to train people for. That's what I was gonna follow up and ask you about is how much is it about actually being able to navigate a way different taxiing experience? I mean, isn't it much different in a jet than a GA, right? So is there not a lot of systems to understand? Procedures?
Well, okay, let me see if I understand the question.
Yeah.
You're asking me, is it different taxing in an airliner versus a GA?
Right.
Is that the question?
Sort of, and more so, can you describe the experience and how it's different? The reason I ask this is because I would imagine there's a lot to learn. I mean, is that outside of everything you just described to me? How much of the training is about that? About being able to just navigate the airport in a jet?
Yeah. Well, that's what OE is.
Okay, that's what OE is.
That's what OE is about.
Okay.
So you already have a type rating. You already know how to fly the airplane. Now we're putting it into use. Right. In the day-to-day operation. And that's what the check airman's there for. For, you know, we say we're going to hold your hand and walk you through this. Okay. You know,
because it's still like an employee training method.
It is absolutely. It's on the job training.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's on the job training. So with a new hire, first officer, you know, sometimes they're coming out of the military. They've never done airline stuff.
Right.
Other times they're coming from a regional. They've done the airline thing. Now they just got to learn the new airline procedures along with the new airplane. Right. Those are a little bit easier, you know, to work with. Mm-hmm. And sometimes things happen at a pace that's faster than what they're accustomed to. You know, and you'll hear it oftentimes at my other airline, we did things this way, and we're like, well, you're not there anymore, so you need to dump that. Yeah. But I oftentimes, when I'm doing OE, regardless of which seat I'm sitting in, I tell them that, you know, my number one job is to take care of them. Okay. And if they're ever not comfortable, which we have this program called Threat Error Management. Okay. TEM. Okay. And and we try to identify the threats to prevent errors. So we're managing the whole situation, right? Mm-hmm. And we have this color chart, right? Which is, it's red, yellow, and green, with green being the center target. That's where we want to be. It's on target in the green, right? And that's kind of the go-to catchphrase, right? I am not in the green.
I am not in the green. Oh,
not
copy.
In the green.
Okay. Maybe I've heard.
And that lets the other person know, okay, something's not correct here. Something's amiss. They're behind, what have you. So I always advise them, don't be afraid. If you're feel like you're behind, you're being overwhelmed, or you can't keep up, or you're not certain about something, just tell me. I'm not in the green. Okay, and there's no harm, no foul. Okay, right? We'll set the brakes, pull over, and we'll get you caught up. Okay, right.
I like that.
And then when you're back in the green, we'll release the brakes and continue taxiing.
I think aviation has an amazing way of taking people's behaviors and attitudes and almost quantifying them. Right. Even just, I like talking to the CFIs about hazardous attitudes, just because of the way that it seems to be so broken down in a useful way to be able to teach about. Because I don't know what other profession or industry you're going to be able to, well, I'm sure there's plenty of them, but I don't know of them, where you get to talk to someone so much about their behaviors, because it's obviously necessary. So when you talk about being in the green and being able to gauge that, I think that's, I just wish more things worked that way, I guess. So anyways, I just wanted to say that's really interesting. And it does lead me to, I mean, we're making good time here. I could probably ask you a million questions.
I've got all day.
I want to ask you about, is there like a behavior that you think that you can kind of identify in people who tend to, I don't know, learn well in these situations all the way through that whole process you were telling me about? I'm sure there's a type of person that struggles more than another, and maybe in the people who excel, you're like, oh, it's because they exhibit this behavior.
Well, I mean, speaking from my own personal experience, I'm a show me person. Right? I'm not a reader. If you hand me a book that thick of procedures, I'm like, oh dear Lord, it's going to take me days to get through this, right? Whereas other people can sit down and cover to cover, you know, in one night. Right. I'm not that person. Yeah. I'm a show me person, and I do have a mind like a steel trap. So if you show me once, I got it. Yeah. Right. Now I just got to learn. I got to figure out what are all the gotchas associated with it. So then once you've shown me the procedure, Now I'm going to turn right around and hit you with all the questions. Well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if that happens?
Right.
Which oftentimes is all described in the manual, but I'm not a real big reader.
You're not going to soak it in that way.
Yeah,
You'd love to talk
I don't
about
absorb it. Yeah, I've tried putting my manuals under my pillow, and osmosis doesn't work for me. So.
That's awesome. I never tried that one. Maybe I still will.
Right. But yeah, we see that. I see that a lot. I see people that are like me, right? I'll ask them if they've read something, and they'll say they haven't.
Okay.
And if it's something that's really overwhelming, then I'll just tell them.
Okay.
Okay, here's what it is, right? And then at a later point in time when things are not as critical, then maybe I'll get the manual out and say, okay, this is what you're going to need to read, right? I mean, I do have to read. I'm not saying I don't read,
right?
But
you're able to, when you're able to have a conversation about it first and then tie it back to the book, it's probably a little easier to.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if I'm having trouble sleeping at night, I get my systems manual out, right?
Yeah.
That'll put me right to sleep.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, on my FAR-AIM, right?
Yeah,
get that out. But as far as procedures, though, I love reading procedures because it tells me exactly what to do.
It's actionable.
I'm the type of person that if you can't back it up with a technical reference,
okay,
then it's technique. It's not procedure.
Okay.
Do
you have a good example of what you mean when you say that? I mean, that's hard to pull off the top of your head, I'm sure.
Well, no, because everything we do is procedure.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything we do is procedure. However, you may, for example, oftentimes when we want to stay in VNAV path.
Okay.
On the 777, that's a term that when you get on a Boeing product, you'll understand what that means. But some people will. If there's no constraints associated with it and they want to get down in a hurry, they'll go flight level change, which is kind of like an idle descent. Right. Well, that's a technique.
Okay.
The book does say that you can use either, but it recommends VNAV path.
Okay.
It's a smoother descent profile, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just using that one. I mean, I'm not knocking anyone for using flight level change. I'm just saying that, there's techniques and there's procedures, and oftentimes techniques get replicated as a procedure, and it's not, and so that's when I'll say, well, where's that written in the manual? Okay, because that's not how our manual is written to perform.
So you still need to. So from someone who's who you could relate to, who may do better learning in conversation or by being shown.
Well, pilots generally are A-type personality, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
And oftentimes they do pick up. They're a lot like me. They show them, they got it, right?
Right.
Some people need the explanation behind it, so I have to be able to do that as well.
Okay.
And then some people want to take it even deeper. Well, where's that written? Right. So now I got to be able to point it to them in the manual.
Exactly.
Right. And then they want to go to, well, why is it that away? Well, I don't know. I didn't build the airplane. Okay. Let's call Boeing.
They'll go as far as they can.
Yeah.
I got you.
So, but yeah, you see different behaviors. Okay. Some people that do better by the show me, and other people that they'll just say, let me read that.
Okay.
Let me read that, and because it tends to sink in better with them or absorb better when they do it that way. So does one perform better than the other? It's hard to say.
No, but they should still be able to tie it back to the reading at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then they can understand the procedures over the techniques at that point.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I do want to ask you a little more about the CloudDancer scholarship for our students. If someone's already a student, can they still apply for something like that?
Yeah. So we are actually currently looking into expanding the eligibility. Right now, what we're trying to do is bridge the gap for the veteran that doesn't get his GI benefit.
Right.
And oftentimes, because of the time of year that we're doing the scholarship, they're already enrolled in school. Maybe they've already got their private, things like that. The best example that we ever saw of a go-getter, if you will, was James that we mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And he applied for his scholarship. By the time the windows closed and he was awarded his scholarship, he was already working on his commercial.
Wow.
So when I got the phone call that I was giving one of our scholarship winners his check ride, I was like, oh, great, private check ride. Yeah. And they go, no, it's commercial. I go, no, that can't be because we don't do commercial applicants, right?
Right.
And then when I got the story, it was like, oh, no, he applied. He was a student pilot when he applied.
Okay.
He has since completed his private and his instrument during the 3-month window that we were taking applications. And so now he's working on his commercial. And little did we know that he had already finished, right?
Okay.
But we awarded the scholarship nonetheless.
Yeah.
And James has been, he did phenomenal. He volunteered quite a bit for us after the fact, and did some videos, on our behalf as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, back to the scholarship. It's $17,500 now.
Right.
And you can be currently enrolled.
Okay.
In school. At the moment, we don't want you to have your private, all right? Because the idea is we're trying to help you get to the private.
Right.
Okay. But what we're finding out is people are starting to find ways to get that money, right? And get going.
Right.
And
it's kind of the world we live in. I
it
guess
is,
so.
right?
Yeah.
And so that narrows the candidate pool quite a bit. And so now it becomes a struggle to find a quality number of applicants, to choose from.
Right.
So what we're looking at doing is potentially expanding that beyond the private.
Okay.
Saying that, well, if you have your private already, then you're not our primary candidate, but
right.
But you're still a candidate, right? Because we're looking for the kid, the young man, the young woman who would otherwise not be able to pursue this career without this money.
And that's why I was asking that question, sort of, getting away from what you really want to achieve.
Yeah.
It's probably a little bit of a confliction there for it.
So, I mean, the way we look at it is we're changing lives, right? We're taking kids that otherwise would not have had an opportunity to make a career out of this.
Right.
And giving them that opportunity.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm wondering, let's say that someone, like you said, would otherwise not have an opportunity, and you help them get their private. After someone gets their private, would you say that kind of opens up more doors for them?
Well, now their GI Bill will pay.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to. Okay, gotcha. So why? Like, how does that? What's
the
that
VA?
context?
That's
okay.
The government. Okay, all I know, and the way I found it out was the hard way, the way most veterans find out.
Okay.
My son was a veteran, and when he got out of the Army, and he enrolled in school, he was going to college. He was using his GI Bill to pay for college, and he said, "Hey, I also want to fly."
Okay.
And that's when the VA told him, "We don't pay for flying for private."
That's so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Why not? I want to get my private, my instrument, my commercial. Fly professionally."
Yeah.
And the answer was, private's recreational.
But it's the starting point.
Exactly.
So,
and he's like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah. Now, once you get your private, if you re-enroll and start working on your instrument commercial, now we'll pay."
Okay.
Because now you've demonstrated that you have a desire to move beyond what they consider to be recreational.
Okay. Gotcha. Right? And I think that's powerful, and I'm glad that we could make it so explicit and clear, because there's so many people that I know are listening, and we've had conversations with many people on the phone that they just want to get started, and getting started is the hardest part. And sometimes they even have the GI Bill, or maybe they can get a loan or something. I'm not sure, but the point is they know that if they were to be able to get their private, they could get the ball rolling.
They could get the ball rolling for their GI benefits. That's correct.
Yeah, and so with what you're saying, and with someone we now have on staff who's supposed to be helping us, bridge that gap. I'm really hoping that we can make that happen for a lot of people, because I think it's an amazing career, and a lot of people dream of this kind of thing, and so I would love to make it more accessible.
Yeah. So just as an example, of course I'm in the sunset years now of my career, but just in the last 4 weeks, I've been to Argentina, I've been to Korea, I've been to London twice, and I'm going to Barcelona this weekend. So.
Wow.
That's the nice thing about the 777. You're a worldwide traveler.
Okay. I was wondering what made people choose their different planes that they might want to fly in the airlines.
So once you get to the airlines, it's all about quality of life.
Yeah.
Right. Seniority is everything.
Yeah.
Right. So you pick your airplane, you pick your schedule, all based on your seniority. People commute sometimes because they're more senior in this domicile.
Right.
Or they simply don't want to move to that domicile.
Okay.
Oftentimes people try to get based where they live or near where they live, which makes it an easier commute. But at the same time, other people will commute to a junior domicile because now they're senior in that domicile.
Oh,
they can pick their schedule.
Okay.
And being senior now, they can pick up overtime, get the trips they want to go, fly where they want to go.
Okay.
I've seen people. We have people who retire in the right seat as first officers of the 777.
Okay.
Because they're so senior there. Versus being a junior captain on a narrow body.
Okay, I understand. I got you.
Right?
Yeah.
So as a senior first officer on a 777,
his
pay dollar per hour is not that far from what a narrow body captain makes.
Mm-hmm.
So 12-year FO, which is the top of our pay scale, versus
Right.
a 12-year captain narrow body.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that big of a difference in their pay.
Okay.
The FO only needs to pick up one extra trip, and he's far exceeded what the captain's doing.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
The nice piece of it is he can, because he's senior as a first officer,
Right.
he can probably get that trip paid as premium or overtime.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a bit more of a benefit. I mean, the seniority is coming into play more.
Whereas the captain is sitting on reserve and he's flying all the crappy trips nobody wants to fly.
Right.
Right.
Just because he's in the role that he's in.
Yeah, because in the airplane that he's in.
Yeah, what he's flying.
The airplane he's in, the base he's in, and the seat that he's in.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I wouldn't have understood that at all. I mean, you have to get there, I guess, to understand that sort of thing. That's a lot of insight. We're gonna have to have you back eventually, if you wouldn't mind. I want to ask you more about the airlines and some of the lifestyle and things like that. But I think today we've covered a lot of great things that our listeners would enjoy, especially our students and people who may become student somewhere in the country. If you guys are listening and if you're still listening, then I must admit that you've enjoyed this episode. So of course, like, comment, subscribe. That really helps other people find out about this podcast where we talk about things that student pilots are interested in, and instructors or anyone who's looking for a career in aviation. So thank you again, Joe, for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and I think that people might know who you are, so it would be cool if they find out that you're on our podcast. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Pilots Say What, where we get to hear what pilots have to say. My name is Zach, and I'll see you next time.